By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge the rooms are filled with all pleasant and precious riches. Proverbs 24, verses 3 and 4. Hello, ladies. I am very honored that you came to listen as you work. These are designed as a radio program for you to listen like we did in the olden days. We used to turn on the radio and wash dishes, and a lot of time was spent singing as well. And today I'm going to talk about several things that you can do as you go. And so, but first, before you go and start on your day, I'm going to show you my teacup. And it is isn't it beautiful? I got this in Australia. They don't have those here in the US. They don't have anything like this. These are just, they were commonly sold in all the gift shops, just, you know, they weren't hard to get. They're not a special, they're not like a Royal Albert or anything like that, but I always loved the pattern on them, and I have two of them, and I'm going to use them for ladies' tea. They're called the England collection, and I like the cutouts on the plate there. And I believe I might have gotten a teacup to go with it. We're going to get that out today, and so I'll give you a picture of this so you can see what it is. And today I have a couple of things to show you. You might want to see before you go, but first I would like to ask you if you have prepared yourself. If you have, that's the first thing you do, is a preparation. I don't call it just appearance because it's a lot of different things. It's preparation. It's getting your mind focused on what you have to do, and it's making your list, and it's getting yourself dressed and ready for the day. And so appearance is very important. If you haven't done that, please go and get a start. I know a lot of people think we're going to get ahead. We're going to get ahead if we just sit down and do this sort of thing before we get dressed, and then we'll get dressed at last instead of at first. But any number of things can go wrong when you do that. And I noticed when I was younger at home with my family that the day kind of went awry when I didn't get dressed. And so appearance is a message to you personally that you're caring for the person that God made. And you know, I think a lot of people, homemakers especially, we are very conscientious of our mistakes and the work that we're doing. We want it to be excellent. We want to have nice homes. We want to have well-mannered, honoring children who are productive in life and who have happiness and love in their life in the future, and also will be someone that we can rely on when we're older. But we look back, a lot of homemakers will look back at mistakes they've made and have a feeling of self-loathing, and that's reflected in their appearance. So you have to just put that aside. You know, the world doesn't forgive, but God does. And you can also, you know, I think a lot of people don't forgive themselves. If you think that you can't forgive yourself for mistakes that you've made and for not really living up to the potential that you have, then really you're acting like you're greater than God, because He forgives. So the best thing to do is to move on and develop the habit of preparation and skincare and getting dressed in the morning. It's a habit that you automatically will do no matter what. You don't even think about it. When we get up and we think about should I or shouldn't I get dressed, then we haven't got the habit yet. And so it has to be a conviction that doesn't get washed aside the minute something else comes up. But you know, when something has come up, you can just say, well, I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time in the bathroom, and I'll talk to you about it when I come back out, okay? Because really we want to be at our best when we discuss some kind of event or a problem or some future thing that needs to be discussed. We need to be at our best. We need to approach it in a professional way. So an appearance is a habit that will benefit you positively, because you'll be what I call unexpectedly prepared. And when you're unexpectedly prepared, you're awfully glad that you were dressed, fully dressed, when someone drove up. And I would suggest that even if you're talking to someone on the phone, you can probably get in the bathroom and do a lot of things to prepare yourself and to get dressed. Even if someone's needing to talk to you, you can still get dressed. So when we talk about the home, we want to make sure that that's like the door of the home, is you being dressed, you looking as beautiful as you can. I know a lot of you don't wear makeup or do anything extra to your skin, but at least wear something that's nice. And if you don't think you have anything nice, give it a good press. Wash it or clean it or give it a good press. You'll find it feels different when you wear it and give it a new life. So home there's a tendency at home. A lot of people are staying home now. This is 2020, and a lot of people are home, and there's a tendency to relax so much that they don't bother getting dressed. A lot of this comes from the work week. You go out to work during the week, and your appearance has to be good. So on the weekend, you just crash and lay around and don't bother with it, and you think that's casual. But now that you're home all the time, you're going to have to dress up every day for the home. I was listening to someone on a YouTube video tell about how he and his wife, because they'd been home a while, he ordered some things that would help them prepare a beautiful meal, and they got dressed up for it. And these are memories that you're creating at home, no matter what the circumstances. And the thing that I wanted to tell you about was, don't wait for the weather to change. You know, we all have, especially those going into autumn and winter, you're going to have some gloomy, overcast weather. But you can make the house sunshiny inside, and you can make yourself sunshiny. And we wait for things to be right before we do anything, and it's a terrible waste of life. Look back at all the years where you waited till the news straightened out, till the country straightened out, till the weather was good, till everything was in place financially, till everything was just amazing, you know. And so don't wait for your friends or your relatives to come around and to be kind and loving to you. Don't wait for your family to approve. Just do your absolute best. You're here to live your full potential, not to wait until the circumstances are right. Now, of course, it helps if the circumstances are right in some cases, but I don't believe that your daily life and getting dressed is dependent on that. And your mood. Your mood is so important for the home, because it can make or break your homemaking day. And so that's why appearance is number one, because it improves your mood. And if you can't get out and get things for your hair or to dress by, you can always order some. But most people have things that haven't worn in a while, and they can get them out. You know, I used to have a lot of things hanging in my closet that were costumes for. We used to have costume tea parties, and they were centered in an era like Regency or Victorian or further on. In fact, I had a costume, I guess you'd call it a costume fashion show one day. I had planned for this for a long time, and I had several people that were willing to dress in the costumes, and some of them were my homemade ones. And then I had a tea party, and I had tables set around the room, and I had the ladies come in one at a time in their costume, and they read from a little script the little history of the costume, and then showed what it was made of, and walked around in and out of the tables where people were seated so they could see. And so delightful. And it went from the oldest era, you know, back in maybe the 1500s. And of course, I think I might have had a Bible costume, so it was very, very old. And the oldest came first, and then the ones towards the 1950s and 60s came next. And they were all modest, all beautiful, and all showing the best of the era. And so some of the things that we don't wear, and I've worn some of these costumes while I have done these videos, because they're just hanging there. It's not really good for them not to be used. And a lot of the formal clothing back there, I noticed I haven't worn, because I live in farm country. I'm a homebody, and there is nowhere to wear them, and the queen is not coming. So I wear them sometimes just to get that feeling, just that feeling of importance and elegance for your own home, and to build up others and build up yourself. And it's so important. So don't wait for the weather to be right. Don't wait for the time to be right. Don't wait for your friends and relatives and loved ones to approve of you or to like you. And one of the signs I learned recently, one of the signs that you might be on to something, that you might be doing something good in the home as a homemaker, is that somebody doesn't approve. And it took me a long time to understand that. But if someone is very upset with you over something that you have done well, or that you know that is the right thing to do, then you know you probably are doing it right. So with homemaking, I have found a book here that I don't know what you're doing now, but I'll let you go pretty soon to do everything. If you've got something to fold or wash or unload or load or a box of papers to go through or even sweep, you can go do that while you listen. But first I wanted to show you, I'm still going through my books. For goodness sakes, I'm going through my books and I wanted to show you something, and I've lost my, I lost the marker. But it's called The Treasury of Vintage Homekeeping Skills by Martha Green. Now this was given to me when we first started in 2005. I believe it was written in 2005. We first started on the web in 2005, and some very dedicated women, who I believe were also homeschoolers, wrote books on homemaking, and this is one of the best. And she gave me this, and it says Treasury of Vintage Homekeeping Skills, because she collected a lot of things like these little drawings and sayings that also lent glory to it and showed you a deeper meaning. It's not just about sweeping, and she even has a thing here about how housekeeping is not just about sweeping and cleaning. And unfortunately my bookmark fell out and I can't find it. But she was talking about, if I ever find it, I'll read it to you again, or I'll print it for you. She said that housekeeping isn't about sweeping and cleaning. You could hire somebody to come and sweep and clean, but to put thoughtfulness into it so that every person in the family's needs are met takes a homekeeper. So it's very, very important. I wish I had not lost it, but she has also little things about the home. And for instance, I have printed this one before. It's an old one. The beauty of the home is cleanliness. The blessing of a home is contentment. The glory of the home is hospitality. And she has an entire chapter on hospitality with some recipes. She also has first aid and home remedies, which are just excellent. You know, I have told you about how drinking hot tea helps flush toxins out of the body, and she has one here, a hint here that you can use a little apple cider vinegar in your bath, which is very, very helpful. And she also has how to clean beds and linens. So I'll read a little bit of what she's written here. Now, hopefully you can still get this. I don't know if it's being produced anymore, but I'll read a little bit of what she's written here. And a lot of it is from old sayings that she has collected, so it is a treasury. It is a treasury. I believe that I have found something. She's given credit to a lot of other bloggers that have given her information here. So this was written in 1879, and it's one of the little quotes that she puts in here throughout, which she dots throughout here, which I just love. Make a home, beautify it, adorn it, cultivate all heavenly charms within it. Sing sweet songs of love in it. Bear your portion of toil and pain and sorrow in it. Do daily lessons of strength and patience there. Shine like a star on the face of the darkest night over it, and tenderly rear the children it shall give you in it. High on a pinnacle above all earthly grandeur, all gaudy glitter, all fancified ambitions, set the home interests. Feed the mind on it, feed the soul on it, strengthen the love, and charity, and truth, and all holy and good things within it. It's called from a book called The Royal Path. It was written in 1870, which I think is really, really important. And since I mentioned the focus on it, is to tell you that if you are constantly listening to, watching, or reading the current news, even some of the conservative news, then it's going to rob you of a feeling of well-being, and you want to be relaxed and happy in your home and focus on it. And I can tell you, as I'm getting older, that this has been going on for a long time, where they keep you constantly upset with the news. And I'll look back sometimes and think, oh, I wish when my child was like 2 years old or 3 years old, I'd shut that thing off and not listen to it, because it kept everybody so like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, and it just was so upsetting that you couldn't really focus on anything, and you didn't know what was wrong. A lot of people were going to doctors to find out what was wrong with them because they were so depressed. And this is where, I told you they put out all this stuff to make you constantly in a feeling of flux all the time, and then they sell you all the medication to help you settle down. And so they're all in it together apparently. So don't wait for all this stuff to settle down. It's not going to, because it's an industry that feeds on fear and also produces fear, and that's how they make a lot of that's how they keep going. So also wanted to talk to you later on about cheerfulness, but I wanted to talk about the home and home life, because that's what it's all about. If you've got something to do, you can go do that now. And as I go through it, I want to I'll just read this here. Most of us would like to be more successful at home at keeping a picture-perfect home. Many times, our lives get consumed with stressful situations, important projects, births of new babies, deaths of loved ones, and the house becomes disordered. You need to have a cleaning schedule, but don't become a slave to it. You want a clean home for your family and guests, but it won't always be just like you want it to be. Work daily developing good habits to keep a home clean. If you develop an automatic habit, this is really important. The woman that I watched so much when I was a younger married woman, when I went to her house, she never got up out of a chair without picking up something to take it back to the room that it belonged to, or the kitchen. And she just cleaned as she went. She never had to wait for a stress cleaning day because everything was cleaned up. And but these are habits, and habits take a little bit of determination to form. Try to keep clutter to a minimum by putting scattered belongings in their proper places. Your home will appear in order even if you still have a long list of undone cleaning tasks. And that's one thing that many of us have tried to do. At least make it look clean. We might not get to deep clean or get in those closets or get behind something and sweep. And we might not be able to sort our books, and we might not be able to sort that messy drawer. But at least the outside, the outer part, at least looks clean, and it feeds your mind some kind of order and cheerfulness. And of course, you'll feel much better when you get into the deep cleaning. That does something even deeper to you mentally. It really, really clears the brain fog too. And but if you can't, at least make it look nice. So a lot of people don't understand that, but at least make it look nice. It is much easier to clean the home when things are picked up and put away. Schedule specific tasks for each day and more detailed cleaning tasks for each month, and some tasks for twice a year. Remember in all to enjoy your family and employ your children as handy helpers. The tasks will get finished sooner or later. Before you know it, you will find the house is empty, and you'll wish for some little hands to get grubby fingerprints on your walls. Don't miss your moments by letting housework consume you. People are eternal blessings. Houses are temporal. And that's true. And I still look at the door sometimes that's so messy and start thinking, I wonder if that's someone's fingerprint that I should keep. So they're just, houses are just vessels to serve us, to help us with our family. And I'm trying to find the part that I liked so much that she wrote about, probably in the introduction here, but it's full of beautiful line drawings and clip art that I like so much. So, ladies, I'm going to go on to a different book now, but I will put this on the blog for you to see, so if you could like to order one. And I'm very happy with this. Quite heavy. I'm very happy with this. I just haven't had time to go through it. But she also has like scrapbook pages where you can place recipes. It can be a book for all kinds and a records. And she even has a section in the back for business, the business of the home, and all the things, all the paperwork, and where did you put it. And she has an expense record like the old-fashioned books that the butlers had and the people that helped care for the rich families, and deeds, titles to vehicles, titles to real estate, last will and testament. And it says the name of it and where it was located in your house. Now, isn't that nice? But it was such a precious book, I couldn't write in it. So I didn't do that, but I'm going to have to think of something soon because it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. And so now I want to go on to your attitude about the home. And the thing is, if you have an uncheerful attitude, it's harder to take care. It's more burdensome. You'll feel even the strain in your back. It's more burdensome to take care of a home when your attitude is bad. And I personally cannot operate in an atmosphere of criticism and gloom. If I feel someone is criticizing me, I just want to hole up somewhere else, retreat. But so you can tell if people feel accepted and are thriving in their home when they're able to do it with enthusiasm and joy. Wouldn't you rather do that than be somewhere else that isn't your own and being forced labor? Wouldn't you rather have your own home? And anytime you complain about it, you come closer, in my opinion, just my opinion, you come closer to losing something very special, and maybe even lose your own home. I've known of people who became so discontent and so distracted by promises of success in the world that they left their home thinking they were going to get something better, and they ended up almost homeless because they didn't guard what they had. So it's really, really important not to complain. If your children start to be blue or complain, gently explain to them how they could make it better so that they could be happier there. And that's the point. A lot of people say they're not happy in the home, so they'll just leave. But that's not the solution. The solution is, if you're not happy in the home, or if there's somebody there that's arguing, is to learn how to work around them and how to thrive in it and how to get along, because that's where you belong. And so that's really important. And we talked about, children and the family and how it operates. And I did recommend you go to some of the old Carol Burnett the family shows with Ed and Eunice and Mama, and they had it down pretty good as to what would trigger the other person, and note how that is used sometimes by people in the home, and you can possibly point that out and show how that's detrimental to your progress at home. Well, I did read to you that little phrase about cheerfulness from a homeschool book. So I'm homeschooling you today. I hope you don't mind. Is if you don't like homeschooling, or you don't want to homeschool, or you didn't homeschool, you don't like the idea of it, there's such a treasure here. I told you about Sir John Franklin a long time ago in an old video, that it was in the 1800s, and he wanted to find the inside passage from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean through Canada, and but he didn't study the weather patterns, because every 10 years apparently it all froze over, and so he and his crew went, and they died because they didn't get out. But there were people that tried to help them, and it was the natives of the area, the Inuits and the Eskimos and other tribes of people tried to help them, but they didn't want their help because they looked down on them, and they thought that they didn't have anything to share with them because they were not as advanced in civilization, and they weren't scientists. This was a scientist group, but because they ignored these people that could have rescued them, they failed in their mission. But I wanted to tell you about this homeschool business. I'm trying to homeschool you, is that you might not think that homeschooling has anything to tell you, but it is so essential to the home. There is something here that you can learn. And even if you don't, it's like a book I read recently that I should have bought, I would say 40 years ago. I should have bought this book, but I saw the author and I saw the title, and it just looked kind of like something fantastic. I thought, oh, that person wouldn't have anything to say to me. Well, recently I got a hold of it and read it, and regretted terribly that I did not read that book when I was homeschooling my children. It could have benefited us. I'll let you guess what the book is. I'm not going to say it out loud here, but I just thought, well, that person doesn't have anything to tell me. And it would have helped my children in business. It would have helped my children in finances. It would have helped my children in judgment of people and what to trust and what not to trust. It would have helped my children also bounce back from any kind of failure in business or jobs, anything like that. Or it would have, it just had a lot more in it than I realized, but I just passed it off as, well, this person doesn't, they're not like us, you know. And it wasn't a vile book or anything, and I don't think it even had any swear words in it, but I regretted not reading it. So this might have something for you. And this one is called Of America, Volume 2. I don't know where Of America, Volume 1 is. These books are pretty worn. I'm just now slowly going through all this stuff. It's going to take me 10 years, I think, to get through every book, because you can't just clean books. You have to look at them, you have to clean them, you have to smell them, you have to decide whether the content is worth keeping or whether you need to replace them, and books are very precious. So this article in this book is Of America. It's all about the government, how it's formed, but also the people, the attitudes that we should have, and this is called Cheerfulness. Now, what book would you have anywhere else that would talk about this? I don't even think, this is an A. Becca publication. A. Becca is pretty good, but this would look a lot better if the cover were still shiny. I want to read this to you. It's called Cheerfulness. The world has a right to expect cheerful service from us. Now, you know that. Those of you who have been to America kind of wondered, because when you're served something or waited on in a business, someone will say, "I hope you have a nice day, and thank you for your business, and I'm glad to serve you." And they look at you like, "What are you talking about?" But we realized early on, and this was written a long time ago, back in the 1800s, that the friendliness and the kindness was going to help our business. It always does, doesn't it? I wouldn't want to go back to a place where I was trampled on. As a matter of fact, after I read this, I had a dream that, and I hope you're working and not watching, because there isn't anything to see here anymore. I had a dream that my family and I went to a hotel that also had a shopping center around it. And when we got there, we just wanted to go into the shopping center area, and we also had booked a room. But when we got there, the proprietors met us at the door and told us that we had dust on the soles of our shoes. So we dusted them off, and we said, "We're so sorry, we're from the country, and we don't know any better, and we just didn't know, you know." So they made us go outside and get the dust off our shoes. And after that, we were kind of soured on even going in. You know, we wanted to shop, but we kind of soured on it because we didn't like being treated like that. And so when we tried to go back in, they said, "You're not welcome here," and they closed the door and made us go out. But when we got out, they had a bunch of people outside that wouldn't let us go home either. So it was like we were trapped. And nobody likes to go into a business where they want to get something, or they want to browse around, or they want to provide something for their home, and they're stuck in there, and it's the only place they can buy it. There's nowhere else. They're also going to get a brutal verbal tongue lashing while they're in there from a rude proprietor or someone who just has it in for people. Now, some people find that pretty amusing. I was watching a YouTube video about someone in England that they kind of got a kick out of going into this one place because they just wanted a cup of tea and a scone, but the woman that worked there was naturally rude to everyone, and they just went there to experience that and laugh about it. But here in America, we don't think it's very funny. And so here's this article written on cheerfulness. Cheerfulness will get you a lot further in life, I will admit that. And from the time you start homeschooling, these McGuffey readers and these other things always show contrasts. They always show a contrast between laziness and rudeness, and cheerfulness and diligence and industry, to show the contrast. It'll also go to the Bible and show the contrast between those two types of characteristics and where it gets people. It shows you the consequences. So the world, cheerfulness. The world has a right to expect cheerful service from us. Life is not all hardships, and good things have a strange way of coming to them who expect them. There is no excuse for the frown, the service rendered unwillingly, or the countenance over which the cloud of gloom has settled. You know, the service rendered unwillingly. There is a scripture that says, "Do not be weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap, if you faint not." If you say, okay, even if I don't see a reward right now, and I am serving very ungrateful people, and I'm in a home that isn't the best, it's not up to standard, but you do it with all your heart, you will reap in some way. If not, you'll be a better person. You will remember the story of the woman and the crosses. The woman thought she had the very hardest cross in all the world, that no one suffered as she did, no one was as lonely as she, and certainly loneliness is a big problem. At home in homemaking, I've often said I'm not sure that it's the loneliness, because there are a lot of people that would be willing to keep us company that we just wouldn't want around because they discourage us. It isn't that, it's the isolation. You know, you can be isolated in your home, but if you look down the street and all the other homemakers are home and the lights are on, you see them, or you see them out sweeping, there's some comfort in that. You're living alone, but you know there are others like you around. That's very comforting. That doesn't feel so isolated. But where the isolation is coming from is in thought um, and in belief and in the I don't know what I'm trying to find the word for it is philosophy, or uh, your basic values in life are so different that people can shut you out and isolate you and sideline you, and uh, so it doesn't hurt to be home alone if you know there are people down around the place that are just home alone too. There's something you feel very united in that. Her eyes were often filled with tears. Her whole attitude cast a gloom over all who came near. And people began to avoid her. Have you ever experienced that? This is very old, written in the, I guess, 1800s. Have you ever experienced that, where some people are so negative and gloomy that you just avoid them? Because they want to argue, or if you don't agree with them, they want to argue back. They've got it all figured out. And even if you decide to agree with them, they'll accuse you of not agreeing with them because they really want a fight. One night, as she lay thinking about it with great bitterness in her heart, comparing her heavily burdened life with the lives of other women we knew, she heard a voice saying, "You may exchange your cross. See?" I just want to interrupt there to say something that sometimes when the house just got to be too much, because I'd been called out and I had neglected a lot of things, and we were on the go, and then when I came back I faced a huge mess. Oh, it was so tiring. I wondered about the queens and the princesses that didn't have to do all that stuff, and I felt really sorry for myself. But if you put it away yourself, if I put away myself and take care of it myself, I know where it is, and I value it more. And so you may exchange your cross, she said. See? And she seemed to see a great room of all marble, pure and white, and around on the walls hung crosses of every size and made of every sort of material. There, said the voice, exchange your cross. Each of these belongs to someone else in the world. Maybe, like you, desire an easy one. Many, like you, desire an easy one. All must have something in life that is hard and no one escapes. But if your cross seems indeed unbearable, choose another. Gladly she went around the room trying the crosses. They were so deceptive. The tiniest one, which she thought would be so easy, seemed like iron as she tried to carry it. One of the gold, that looked very beautiful and bore many jewels, hurt so deeply that she laid it aside. At night she tested the crosses, and when the gray morning light came into the marble room, she went to the man at the door and said, "Oh, sir, I pray you, sir, give me back my own cross." The man, whose voice had spoken to her in night, drew his robe around him, smiled, and answered, That is what all say who enter here. Take it and bear it courageously. How many of you have had to go stay with someone or maybe even live with someone and discovered that it was a lot more comfortable at home and a lot better with your own family? It is a story, a dream, but it is true. If one realizes the great fact that all suffer, all have difficulties and trials, and all have longings unsatisfied, and that there is no reason why he should escape, it will help hush the word of complaint upon his lips and change the frown to a smile. That is the problem with complaining, is it somebody will say to you, well, I don't see how things could get any worse. Do you know that they can? And that is really, really sad. And I told a lady many years ago who had become discouraged with something that was going on at home, and she quit church. She just quit coming to church because she just felt so debilitated and so low that she just couldn't bring herself to come. And so she had been in contact with me, and I had said, if you don't if you at least keep up going to church, because it'll keep things normal, at least closer to normal. That'll be something regular you can depend on, that you can do, where people are thinking the same, having the same beliefs. And but she didn't, and you know, things did get worse, and pretty soon they do get worse. You think, oh, it couldn't even be worse than this, and they do. It has a way of getting worse, when especially complaining about it. So, and I understand the idea of complaining. I was reading Christians on the Oregon Trail, and there were people that did complain, but it is a growing thing. You know, we all complain, but then we quickly figure out how to overcome and how to make things better. In fact, our first complaints are often a step towards inventing ways to do things better. There are two kinds of people in the world: those who see clouds and those who see through the clouds. Each one of us has to decide for himself to which class he will belong. Usually one has decided before he is 20 whether he will look at the clouds or through them. If he does the first, he will be gloomy and morose, or sharp and critical. As he grows older, deep lines will mark his face, and smiles visit it only on rare occasions. He will join the class of worriers. Worry is the most awful disease in the world today. It is contagious and infectious. It is the great destroyer of joy, and joy is life at its best. The spirit of cheerfulness, secured and cultivated at any cost, is the best antitoxin for worry on the market today. Those who look through the clouds, be they soft or filmy, or heavy and dark, see the sun. Remember that. I've had to remember that even recently, that behind the gloom, behind the clouds, there is the sun. It is there. It is always there, always shining. They know that clouds always move on, and they wait, hoping that today they may pass. If not today, then surely tomorrow. And tomorrow they have the same hope. And the last day comes when the sun in all its glory shines upon them. So that's why I say, when you're homekeeping, and don't wait for the sun. Don't wait for one of these wonderful days. Some of you in the southern hemisphere are going to be going through many cloudy days. Get that house ready. Get everything ready so that when the sun does come, you can have a day off and go out and enjoy it like a vacation. Have a little mini vacation. And so that you can have a special celebration. Just get everything ready. How many of you, when spring came so suddenly, or summer just all of a sudden was there, you weren't ready, you weren't prepared, you didn't have the winter's work done, and now you're stuck indoors working because you can't go out and enjoy life because you've got to get some stuff done that you didn't do, that are very, very essential to the home. And tomorrow they have the same hope, and the last day comes when the sun in all its glory shines upon them. These are the people it is good to meet in homes, in offices, in shops, behind counters, and on streetcars, everywhere in the world. They are the ones who should be awarded a medal or a prize in gold. All those who meet the world with a cheerful face and a voice that makes all hard things seem easier because of the note of faith and hope there is in it. They are the ones without whom happiness would be impossible. One can no more think of life without these smiling faces than of a world without air, with no stars and no sun. Out in the world are clouds, hard things as well as easy. No one wishes to be deceived about that. And out there, cheerfulness is a great asset. Secure it at any price. I think any one of you could write this in a shorter form and write it more condensed and more to the point. And I'd encourage each of you that are writing newsletters to write a little piece on happiness, be it a paragraph or a sentence, because it's so important. Another thing I wanted to bring up while I'm here is how to keep from discouraging children. Now, everybody's going to be discouraged. When you're growing up, you know there were discouraging moments, times when we couldn't seem to master a skill, and we'd have to do it over and over. And so we want to keep our families cheerful. And one of the things that I noticed while looking for things about cheerfulness, I had these old church songbooks, and some of the church songbooks that were written aforetime were I was just amazed. And they must have been written during the Depression, I have to tell you, because and I'm so happy that the church where we live got new ones that had a better balance of cheerful, joyful songs and praising songs, because this book that I had, that was, I don't know if it was the 1930s or 40s that this was written in it, but I found it amongst a collection of old songbooks, hymn books, and it was full of the hungry, faint, and poor, dreary, weary, oppressed, and worn and sad songs. I mean, there was just one after another. I tell you, people on the Oregon Trail were happier than these songs here. I have to tell you, because at least they were headed for some kind of destiny, some kind of success, and every day was different, and the birds sang, and the sun came up, but some of these dreary songs, and also in their hymns, and I really was not happy to have them even in the new song because I don't think it's good for children to dwell on darkness all the time, to dwell on some people just aren't mature enough, to handle it. But there are also homeschool books you need to avoid. That is too many stories about people who have tragedy. Even the religious homeschoolers have a lot of homeschool books that I totally objected to, making life look dreary and sad and horrible for little kids. And one of the problems with the missionary books and the stories of these brave people that went somewhere and suffered a lot of things, some of them even killed by people in foreign lands, and was that they are studied by young people who look at it as an idealistic life. Oh, they want to go and do this, but they forget that they can sacrifice it all at home, also at home, to their own families by really giving their all to the home and helping their mother and father. But instead they want to go to some foreign place and become a martyr or something like that. But they could do that in the home and benefit their family. And because what it does is does not teach them about the home and the family. They can go and be ministers in another land, and but they don't really have to stay home and do housework, and they don't really have to understand the home, raising children, teaching children, like, to read and write, and to teach them how to live. When you get into missionary work, and I have experience with this, that stuff is not as prevalent, and it's not really good for a person to go and do that. You can actually evangelize and have ministry in the home. You can have a special time or a special family or person that you minister to, and you can create ministry for that. I just wanted to mention that too, because so many of the stories that were written about these missionaries gave young people the idea they should go off and do that, and I don't really believe that that's required at all. I don't see that anywhere. So the other thing is cheerfulness. Now, you have to keep cheerfulness under good regulation, because to be all chirpy and cheerful around somebody who's not doing so well is probably not wise at all. It's like singing songs to a troubled heart, as Proverbs says. And so cheerfulness, and then there's gloominess. The serious look on your face. I noticed there's a time to laugh and a time not to laugh, but a seriousness on your face and in your voice is required at times when others are suffering. That's true. At the same time, people who are suffering also must not realize that life is not built on your own problems, but that other people have had different experiences in life. And it was like I was telling you, some stories people don't want you to read fiction or anything like that because they believe it gives you a warped view of life. I can understand their feelings. I feel that same way about some of the missionary stories, although they're heroic and admirable. We wonder, there's always a backstory. There's always, what happened to their families, what happened to them, and, what kind of father, husband, son were they, what were they in relationship to their whole family. And so as you clean house today, think about how it serves everyone there and how you're getting it ready. You almost have to have two roles. You have to have the housekeeper role and you have to have the owner role. You're coming into a house that was cleaned by the housekeeper and you were the housekeeper. It's quite an interesting way to live. And so when you've gotten it all cleaned up, you take your apron off, you sit down, you have a cup of tea, you read something nice, or watch something that's soothing, and stay away from upsetting reports, because things are going to be okay. And of course, many of us are old enough to know that they'll just keep it churned up constantly and keep you worried about one thing after another. Pretty soon it's just going to be plain dangerous to be alive. And so, and you know that God didn't say that. So he created us for a reason, and he put us here to work and to be happy and to enjoy the fruit of our labor. So I want to talk a little bit about people skills, because when you're in a home, it's really necessary, and it's very important not to allow other people to tell you how to run your own home. I think that's really important. I mean, a lot of people feel like they've got to have a mentor or they've got to have someone that tells them what to do, but really it's a matter of observing what works in your home. If you haven't been home and now you've been home for a couple of months, you start to notice a pattern. There are some people who will wake up at a certain time and not be hungry. There are other people who will wake up at a certain time and right away head for a drink of apple juice. Everybody has, and there's a pattern. And then you'll notice there's a pattern for the laundry and a pattern for the cleaning and a pattern for everything. And it's up to you to decide what the pattern of your family is and how it works. Now, you could always force a different pattern on it, but it might not have as good results. It just depends. But to keep people in a constant stage of being upset over what you're trying to do at home, it's, to me, more skillful to work around people but still have a list and still have some kind of a schedule. And like I read in Martha Green's book, you cannot let it run you. You cannot let the schedule run you. So ladies, if this has been helpful to you, I hope you got a lot done today. And you cannot comment on the YouTube channel, so I hope you listen to it on my site, which I provided a link for, and we'll go over there instead. You can leave a comment there. So until I see you again, I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.